Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 155, where Allah promises that He's going to test us in every possible way. And He said, وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, give good news to those who are patient. Now in the next verse, it says, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا, those who, when they're afflicted with some calamity or some difficulty, they say, إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. They say, we belong to Allah and we are going to return back to Him. Now, usually we say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un when somebody dies. But it doesn't say that you just say it when somebody dies. It says that anytime there's a musibah, there's a calamity that hits you, the people who are showing patience, the way they're supposed to show patience, is they exhibit this quality of reminding themselves that we belong to Allah and we're going to return back to Allah because Allah is in control of us. Allah gave us life, Allah made us, and He can cause us to go back at any time. And there's two reflections I want to mention here. Number one is that when something happens to somebody else, we're saying this. We're not saying that that person belonged to Allah and that person is returning back to Allah. But we're describing ourselves. We're talking to ourselves, saying we belong to Allah and we're going to return back. And not just saying that person is going to return back, because whenever somebody around us, something happens to them, it's a musibah for us. It's an affliction for us because we care about them. Imagine somebody you're very close to passes away or gets terminally ill or gets sick or even loses their job or something bad happens. It affects you because you care about that person. So the first thing is you're reminding yourself. You're not just reminding the other person. You remind yourself of, you know what? Allah can test us in any way He wants to. And when Allah tests us, the wording is very interesting. The word musibah is a very interesting word if you reflect upon it carefully. Musibah in this verse means calamity or affliction. And in the Arabic language, musibah, that means calamity or affliction. In the Urdu language, it comes from Arabic. Musibat means like an affliction, like something horrible has happened. This is like a musibat. Maybe in other languages, maybe in Farsi, maybe in your language, same thing, right? Yeah. What language? Pashto? Farsi. Yeah, Farsi. Musibat. Same thing. The wording though, the linguistically, if you go back to the origin of the word, it doesn't actually mean that. The original meaning of the word has to do with hitting the mark. So asaba yusibu in Arabic means to aim. You take aim and you make sure you're going to hit the target. So when you get hit with an affliction, what's interesting is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the word even in the Quran that this was intended to get you. Allah tests you however He wants. And Allah aimed this test towards you and it hit you. It's not going to miss you. If Allah wanted to test you with something, it's not going to miss. It's going to hit. And the word is so interesting because, you know, my Quran teacher in France, he's a student of Sheikh Saeed. He's a student of Sheikh Ayman Suwaid, one of the world-renowned, qaris in the world. He used to make fun of the students. He used to joke with the students a little bit. So when somebody was reciting, he would say, قِرَاءَتُكَ مُصِيبَةٌ. That has two meanings. So your recitation is musibah. Musibah can mean that you hit every single letter with the makharij and the sifat and you did every rule of tajweed correctly. Or it could mean your recitation is a calamity. It's so bad. It's so horrible. So he would say that and you don't know which one he means. And he would just smile a little bit. People would be like, hopefully he means the first one. Because the word has two potential meanings and it applies to qira'ah as well. So it applies exactly in this scenario. That anything that hits you and afflicts you, it was meant to hit you and afflict you. And what you're supposed to do is you get a lesson from that and you remind yourself that Allah can test us in any way He wants because He owns us. We belong to Him and we're going to return back to Him. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to remember this so that we can have patience with the trials and tribulations that we go through. And we ask Allah not to test us with more than we can handle. Ameen wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.